I'm going to show you exactly how I hunt the pre-rut. When it comes to the pre-rut, finding bucks is fairly predictable. It's a lot easier than you might think. Bucks move on the edges of high stem count doe bedding areas. And more specifically, they visit the scrapes alongside those doe bedding areas adjacent to where the does bed. This area outlined in red is a high stem count doe bedding. Young bucks will tend to bed in there as well, but it's primarily does and fawns. It's a lot thicker than it looks. Don't be fooled with aerial maps. The orange dotted lines are deer trails. You can see where the trails meet toward the top of the bedding area. These types of locations are where I would usually hunt during the pre-rut. There's often a scrape where trails intersect and meet. If there are not two trails and just one, that will work as well, but it's always better to have two trails intersecting because you increase your odds of seeing deer meet up at that scrape. What I do with my stand is I like to go right next to doe bedding that is thick and high stem count, overlooking a scrape, ideally where two trails meet up. If there's only one trail, I'll still set up on that scrape. That also works. But when you hunt the rut, try to think of doe hunting. You need to hunt where you would expect does to be. If there are does, there will be bucks. This visual example works especially well on a south wind, meaning the wind is blowing from the bottom of the screen to the north toward the top. The bucks will cruise that deer trail heading east and west, scent checking for the bedding area and making sure that if there are any does in heat, they can find them by going east and west with the wind blowing into their direction. So the next time you head into the woods, either scouting or actually hunting the pre-rut, look for these three things in this order. Number 1, locate the high stem count bedding. This is usually the thickest part of the property you're looking at. Number 2, walk the trails around the bedding area. There is usually a deer trail along the edge of the thicket. Every thicket, high stem count doe bedding area that I've found has a trail that goes around it. Number 3, and this is crucial in my opinion if you want to increase your success during the pre-rut, look for scrapes right on that trail that goes around the doe bedding. If you see multiple scrapes in a small area, for example, last year I found an area with 3 to 4 scrapes within 10 yards of each other adjacent to doe bedding. That is a really good place to hunt because it increases your odds of multiple deer wanting to go there and check out those scrapes. The more scrapes you can find in a small area, the better. If they're spread out every 50 yards, that's pretty tough. You want to go where there's the most amount of scrapes, close to doe bedding, in thick cover, on main trails that intersect one another. In my opinion, it's not good enough just to set up on scrapes. There could be scrapes in all kinds of places, but that doesn't mean it's a good scrape to set up on. What I try to do is set up on a scrape or multiple scrapes that are adjacent to doe bedding. And once again, when I say doe bedding, I do not mean that bucks never bed there. Occasionally they probably do. But it's high stem count bedding. Does are going to bed in the middle of that. Bucks are going to bed normally on the edge of that. But doe bedding simply is high stem count bedding, a thicket, some people call it, and they're going to bed right in the middle of there. And you want to be on the outside of that, looking for bucks cruising along the edge of that bedding, scent checking for does and checking those scrapes. So if you find a scrape or multiple scrapes right next to doe bedding or very close to it, that is a really great place to set up on. Sometimes within bedding too, there's some openings that kind of open up where trails intersect inside the bedding area. If you can find a way to sneak in there without the wind affecting you and you can be quiet enough, those are really good spots to key in on as well. If you find a scrape that's out in the open, maybe on the edge of a field or something, that's not right next to a bedding area, that's most likely created and visited at night. Most bucks will not, especially in my experience where I hunt on pressured public land, most bucks will not visit those scrapes during the daylight hours. They're looking for security cover even during the pre-rut throughout the rut. So if you're hunting over a scrape in the middle of nowhere, not next to or within bedding, there's a good chance a deer is not going to go there on high pressured public land. So if you'd like to learn a lot more about seeing more deer and less people, I think we can all agree that's a much better hunting experience. Make sure you click this video right here, and over here if you have not yet subscribed, please do that right now. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.